This is my heater. I dare you to hit it.
He'll be sorry.
Want the heater? I'll give it to you.
Basketball, maybe they don't hit it.
A swing and a drive to deep right.
Clear the deck. Cannonball coming.
Left field. It is out of here.
What's up? What's good? Baseball Unstitched. We're back. Flax is laughing, and you guys don't even know why. You know, counting's not his strong suit, but that's okay. Flax, everybody, hope we're doing well. Baseball is running. We had a lot of fun things happen this week. And right before we recorded the last episode, Vladdy Jr. decided he was just going to sign a contract. I'm sorry, right after we recorded. So we kind of missed that. We would have loved to talk to you guys about the Vladdy conversation, but reality is we felt like we already had that a couple weeks ago. So we're not going to dive into Vladdy this week. We feel like you've probably heard a lot about his extension, how people feel about it. We've definitely voiced how we feel about it all over the interwebs and the social medias and so on and so forth. So with that being said, as always, Flax, how was your week?
Week was good. I mean, listen, this is the week that every sports fan, I think, gets excited for as springtime comes around. We had a men's league baseball game this weekend, full slate of Major League Baseball games, and to cap it off, the Masters were this weekend. Rory finally completed the career Grand Slam. He tried to give it away a couple of times, but he did come through and finish it in a playoff with Justin Rose. But this is not a golf podcast, so I will digress.
Good week for us on the men's baseball front. We won 11-2 this week. Both of us had 2+ hits, so not a bad weekend for the boys. Today, what are we popping into, guys? Well, we have a wonderful interview that we are going to share with you guys with Bill Mosiello. He is a wonderful, wonderful person in the baseball world. The former coach of, the Ohio State Buckeyes, currently the assistant baseball coach at TCU. Man's a hitting guru. Flax, tell us a little bit more about one of your friends.
Yeah, he's coached over 1,500 games at the Division I college baseball level. He's managed at the AA level, managed, we won't spoil it, but a couple of really, really notable players throughout his years in college, in pro ball. But like you said, he's a hitting guru. I think I got to spend a little bit of time with him hitting right before my senior year of high school, and it was revolutionary for my understanding of how to take an at-bat, how to hit a pitch, how to swing, all that stuff. So hopefully we can bring a little bit of that conversation to you guys, and it'll be a fun interview for you guys to listen to because he's a great guy to sit down and chat with. And just like our last interview, another person that loves to tell stories and loves to really get into the nitty-gritty of baseball.
Can't wait to share this interview with you guys. I think you're going to really enjoy it. All right, so we got to start somewhere. And again, you thought it was home runs, but it's not. We just want you guys to know what we saw this week in baseball because there was a lot of fun things that happened. And Flax, I'm going to start because I am going to talk about home runs. I'm full of it because James Wood can't stop hitting balls over the fence. And it's really, really enjoyable.
From center field to left center.
Yeah, it's so impressive. He did hold. Listen, he pulled one.
Sure.
It was earlier in the week. He pulled one. So I don't want to hear this about the why isn't he pulling the ball. However, James Wood hit an absolute laser beam this week. Go make sure you see the video. A down and in pitch. He hit the opposite way, 111 miles an hour on a line 400 feet to places even the Marlins announcers were stating only Giancarlo Stanton was hitting balls too. I'm so excited to get to watch this guy play in DC for at least the next 6 total years. Very impressed. As big as he is, to be able to control the bat head the way he does and make swing decisions and let the ball get deep. Very, very impressed with James Wood.
It's very... People are going to be upset that I say this. It's very reminiscent of the way you talk about guys like LeBron James in the NBA. no one his size should be able to move at the speed and fluidity that he is able to move with the control that he has. James Wood and his ability to move around the bases, to move in the outfield, to swing a bat the way that he does is next level, especially for the size that he is. And I think that's probably what's most impressive to me when it all gets broken down.
Yeah, bat to ball skills are unbelievable.
Yeah.
His bat speed was over 80 miles an hour, which is an upper echelon number. Wood's a dog. We're excited to have him in DC. Flax, what did you see this week?
I'm going a different direction, and I have something I have to get off my chest because I can't understand that we're now seeing this happen for a second time in, a 6-month period. A foul ball down the right field line in Houston. Mike Trout runs over, tries to catch it over the wall, and it is ruled a foul ball after a fan took the ball out of his glove. The response from the broadcast team was, well, once it goes over the fence, the fan has the right to catch the ball. In what world? In what world does the paying customer have more of a right to a play that is happening than the person who is trying to make the play and getting paid to be there? So that drove me nuts. But again, Mike Trout, a pro's pro, the best there is in the game, after these people get kicked out of the game, meets up with the dad and his son, makes sure there's no hard feelings, gives the kid a bat, shakes their hand, chats with them. This is why we love guys like Mike Trout. I think this is why so much of the baseball community is upset that Mike Trout hasn't necessarily been posed as this centerpiece of baseball, because this is who he is. This is what he does. All that and being one of the best baseball players we've ever gotten to see play the game. So that was my big thing from this week. I just can't understand how we live in a world where there were so many people on Twitter and the broadcasters even saying, well, the fans had the right to the ball. No, they did not. In
That's
no
never
world,
been a thing in baseball.
in no world does a fan have a right to the ball so that a player doesn't catch it. Zach Campbell, I'm looking at you.
Did we not completely chastise and bastardize somebody completely out of Chicago one time for this? And he never had the right to the ball, and he never felt that he did. So my point is I agree with you. It was kind of wild that the announcers were stating the fan had the right to the ball. It's just not how it works. If that was the case, that guy in New York should be able to come back to baseball.
This isn't rules to the road. This isn't rules to the road. You don't have right of way. One person is playing in a game, the other person should sit there and get out of the way while the players are trying to play said game. Those are the rules to the road. It's pretty simple.
It has always been this way. We don't think it's going to change. If you would like it to change and you would like to record outs as a fan, please attend a Savannah Bananas game.
There it is. Yep. Go to Banana Ball. They let you catch the ball.
Either way, moving right along here, we're going to go ahead and we're going to move into this interview that we are extremely excited to share with you guys. Here's our interview with TCU's assistant head baseball coach, Bill Mosiello.
For those of you who don't know who we're talking to, we are very lucky to be joined by Coach Bill Mosiello, a coach of over 1,500 Division I baseball games, many other accolades. I want to make sure that I'm getting this correct, because the last time I heard you talk about kind of your entryway into college baseball coaching, I was a 15-year-old with undiagnosed ADHD, so I don't know how great my memory truly is. But if memory serves correct, you were at Fresno State as a catcher, had some injury issues, and kind of moved into a student or player coach type of role and started to get your feet in the water in that realm. Do I have that correct?
Well, yeah, not quite, but pretty close.
There you go.
Yeah, so my senior year, I had 3 knee surgeries like in an 18-month span my junior year, so I wasn't even able to play my senior year. So luckily I got a full-time coaching job at a place called Cerritos College, where I had played just 2 years before that. I went to Fresno State out of high school, then to Cerritos College, where we won a state title, played for a fabulous coach named George Horton, went back to Fresno State for the year, and then with the injuries, wasn't going to be able to play my senior year.
Sure.
So as a 21-year-old, got a full-time coach. We were able to go 46-5, win a state title. just great players and Coach Horton, and I played a no role at all. I'm just but the fact, the ability to start coaching at that age, and that's really how it started. It wasn't because I was brilliant or anything. I wasn't good enough to play. I got injured, so that didn't ruin. Baseball still went on without me as a player, that's for sure. So I got a great start with great people and coaching with great coaches and mentors and coaching great players, and then you just get lucky, from there on.
Well, I mean, if you want to call it that, you've obviously gotten lucky a many number of times because you've had a pretty extensive coaching career. But I think Ryan and I, we were going through it and we were looking at some of these different schools. I am curious because you've gone to so many different places. Only a couple of those places have you really been at for a long time. But as I was digging into it, it seemed like there were a lot of crossovers with a lot of different people. I'm curious what kind of led to you jumping kind of from place to place over that time period.
It's one of those careers that I say that I would change everything I did, but yet I wouldn't change a thing because I got to come across amazing other coaches I worked for, amazing players, different parts of the country. And really, once I got married in 1995 to my wife, Janelle, every move we thought was better for our family. You know what I mean? Right. So we thought, hey, went from Ole Miss, where I was when we got married in Oxford. Oh, we can go to Oklahoma, which was a lot closer to California. Larry Koshel, a legend coach there, had just been to 3 World Series in 4 years and just won a national title. Convinced me, hey, out of our 35 players, 28 were from California. You'll be able to go home recruiting all the time, be closer to home. So, you know what I mean? So you start coming back, and then it really just, every move was what you thought was better for the family. So, so it's not the smartest. I'd read so many, I was a big football fan, and I still am, and I would read about Joe Gibbs and other great coaches, and Joe Gibbs would take 1 million jobs and 3 jobs in a year without even coaching places. So, you're like, hey, there's nothing wrong with doing this, but yet there is. Somebody's saying this guy must be a problem. Everywhere they're winning, but he's leaving everywhere, and you're thinking that $20,000 isn't much, but that's a big deal, but really it isn't. That's what I would teach other people. Just stay where you're at. If you believe in yourself, great things will happen. But I just was chasing neat places, and the biggest thing where I'm so fortunate and lucky is I've never been at a small school. I've been at nothing but great schools. Yeah. So I never went to I don't ever want to disparage any other schools, but I was at amazing schools. So Cal State Fullerton would be the least popular, but yet in a baseball sense, especially when I was at Fullerton, we played for a national title the last game I was there. So we were a top 5 program in the country at that time. So yeah. And then a couple of years later, all they do is get rid of me, and they won another national title. So you know what I mean? So was how elite. And then obviously being at 4 different stops at SEC schools, and so it's just super fortunate. So they were all great, and they all had, just different things that we thought would be better for the family and different places to live in. And then you start having kids, and then you can't do certain things. And, but so every move we did was what we thought was best. But yet if I could do it all over, I probably wouldn't make any of those. But then I couldn't have screwed up as much, and I couldn't have learned from so many people. Right. So that's why I wouldn't change a thing. But it's great to look back on it, and it's hard to believe. And then you're just so grateful and blessed with the people that you got to be around as the years gone. That's where my gratitude to all the great coaches I worked with, and then all the great players. And, the players, I learned way more from them than they learned from me. So I was super fortunate to be around just great kids. And I'd always had a pretty good understanding of why players have success. And man, when you're around those great ones, you learn the characteristics of what makes them so special. And they're always actually better people than they are players, believe it or not. So that's really where it starts. And you just learn. And as a coach, I've never, none of them were great because of me. So you don't try to kid yourself and pretend hey, everywhere I go, there's a great, everywhere I went, there was a great player, but it wasn't because of me. They were great before they ever met me. So don't kid yourself. So again, if you start believing that you're the magic pill,
you know what? No. You say that, but I tell Ryan, I didn't learn how to actually be a good hitter until I was going into my senior year of high school. And I had gotten to spend, you probably don't even remember this, but I was visiting Michael at Tennessee for a weekend, and I got to spend maybe a half hour with you in the cage. It was me, Michael, and I don't know if you remember the name. It was Davis Aiken. And
my left-handed hitter from Georgia. Yeah, I don't forget my guys. So.
And the three of us were just hitting in the cage, and I remember watching Davis just line drive after line drive in BP off the back of the net. And I started talking to you about it, and you were talking to me about hitting, and I was just like, oh, it clicks. Like, I think there are people that have the knack for it, and we already have a plan to talk to you a little bit more about hitting as we talk. But I think, the humility, obviously, being in it and around it comes with, but I would not sell yourself short. I think you have a knack for knowing how to say the right things to the right guys at the right times to help them get over the hump and understand themselves as players and as hitters. Because obviously some really good hitters have come through you and the places that you've been.
Well, yeah, I appreciate that, but I will tell you that I really don't. And it is more of what I really won't do is it's added strength, and it could be a negative in this day and age, but I still believe it's a strength. It's the simplicity. I'm not trying to be humble, because I'm actually not a humble person, all right? So, and I don't have humility. I've just failed more than everybody else, so that has humbled me. But it's the simplicity.
This game will do that to you.
No, for sure. And I'm not smart enough to get too fancy. So, like, there is a simplicity, and there is just certain things, and I'm not going to make it tougher than it is. And I am smart enough to not mess you up. Now I've never turned some average hitter into a great hitter. And I've never taken a great hitter and screwed him up. You know what I mean? So there really shouldn't be credit for that, but I'll take credit because the great hitters that are around, they continue to be great. But because I didn't screw them up, and I didn't try to talk smarter than I was and pretend that I'm going to change Todd Helton or Mike Trout's swing when all they've done is be awesome before they ever met me. But I'm not going to mess them up. You know what I mean? So there is something to do that. I think maybe some people are so smart and they've got so many answers and they want to maybe put their fingerprint like this guy was great, but man, I'm going to give him these 7 nuggets and make him greater. And maybe that wasn't for them.
Yeah. Ryan, do you now see why I love this man's hitting philosophy? This is all we talk about.
Coach Mo, we've had some discussions about this, and I'm one of the big proponents on we have a epidemic in the game right now where there are multiple schools of thinking, and there's people within those schools of thinking of hitting that believe there's only one way to hit. And it sounds like to me you are not somebody who believes that in any way, shape, or form, and that everybody's going to come to you with a different subset of how they move their body, how they make contact with the ball. And I really enjoyed listening to you say that that's not what your goal is. Your goal is to continue to make sure that they are the hitter they are, and they leave better or the same as they were. No difference.
Yeah, and again, some people might think that, that doesn't make me right. I've got FOMO, so I don't have Twitter anymore, but when I used to, I feel like friends like to send me all this stuff out there. And you hear a guy talking about, I just saw a guy hit a line drive, and I would be like, oh, that's awesome. Just look, he's in a great position. Yeah. Just do what you do. And they break it down with 20 fancy words.
Yes.
And I just, hey, man, he was ready to hit. He got a good pitch, and he put a great swing. But I'm jealous that this guy can say this, and, oh, my gosh, he made it sound so fancy. So when somebody's, man, I'm enthralled by the way they're talking and what they're saying, but yet I might do a little research. So where are all these great hitters that you've been around? And there really isn't any.
Yeah.
But I wish I could speak like him and break it down, but I can't, nor will I try. But if somebody can paint a picture for me to get me better, I'm all in, and I'm always just embarrassed and crushed for players that I haven't fixed, and I just wish you could get a lot better. And gosh, I wish I had an answer. And there are I got some great friends in the game that have a better eye than me, and like they may see something and. You know what I mean? And they're able to...
Sure, yeah.
And I'll listen to them. And had a great friend of mine, Jeff Pickler, a great hitting guy, in this weekend with me, with my team. And I'm all open if he has some suggestions. He knows he has to do it in a simplistic way with me. And he knows I'm not going to, when we might make a little adjustment, he hits a homer. And it's like, see, I was like, really? Because, I've seen him hit a lot of homers, and I never said that to him. So it's not the first time he's done this. But I do, man, got a little better ideas and thoughts than I do. So it's so crazy, and we're in such an age now of hitting that there's so many experts who aren't really experts, but they're experts. So, but yet I would be a fool, and it would be unfair to my players if I didn't try to get better daily and try to listen to some of them. but I'm not really getting better at that. Like getting in good positions, getting good pitches to hit. A great hitter is a great hitter. You know what I mean? So it's so, there's so many different, it's so complex, and
Yeah.
there again, but do I think you can be too smart and confuse kids? Absolutely. Do I think you can hurt kids by not doing enough that you should be able to help them? Yes. Can you find that happy medium? Yes. And that's what you need to do, and it's good to have some other really bright people around you that maybe that can't articulate it in a simplistic fashion to a hitter that like maybe I can, but I'm sure I get some guys. Why isn't he giving me more? How come,
There's
how come he's
always
not, well, like buddy, like when you were swinging it great a week ago, it wasn't because of any fancy thing I did. There's no way you could have changed that much in 5 days. Like,
well, and that's part of the difference in
you still got to believe
hitter.
So
That's part of the difference in hitter too, right? It's not just the
No
difference in
question.
how they physically move their body. It's a
You're
difference in the way that they approach it and the thought process. I can't tell you how many guys I've played with where it was such an analytical approach to finding the same slot, the same position every time. And there's a level where, like, for me as a hitter, if I can feel my body being free and flowing and I'm seeing it with my eyes, you could throw me whatever you want, wherever you want. I feel like I have good enough hand-eye coordination and contact skill to just take my A swing on it, and it should be a good result. But it's not always going to be a good result, and that's baseball. And it's just fascinating guys think about things so differently.
yeah, and no question. And I do love, so like things that I really buy in is like body movement testing and things like that, because like I'm trying to get him to get to a position he just can't. And why is he not doing this with his front hip and his front leg? Because I want it here, and it's like his body is not, it's just not made to do that.
Yeah.
So I still don't have answers for that, but I do buy into that. And I would, if you're on a major league, not major league, but the minor league staffs where they have enough people to do that, but we really don't. But I buy into all that. Like they can't do the move that you want, but he overcompensates with an amazing hand-eye coordination, and he does it different. And again, my biggest thing that like I would always tell you is like, you are not going to see every hitter that looks the same. They're all going to look different. They have different styles. And I hope there's different things that my guys would all be as a group, as you would watch them more and more, super competitive, know how to use counts, hit with 2 strikes, are good situational players. So
Yes.
like that to me, there's a difference between a hitting coach and a swing coach. I don't believe you can be a great hitting coach if you're not a great swing coach. I'm not a great swing coach. I wish I could be better, and I'm working daily. And every time there's somebody that I believe that's out there, or I talk to someone, hey, you ought to see this guy, he's fantastic. Well, guess what? I've met with them, I've called them, and they've shared it. And then I've gone to stay at their facility for 3 days in different states. And man, I didn't get any magic pill. I love this guy interacts. He's got a great personality, makes him feel like $1 million. This guy, but like there is no secret pill. And so, but I'm always searching, and I'm always like, I need to be better. I want to be better, but it's just not that easy.
Yeah.
And the great hitters that I've been around, I know how they went about it. I know how we did in the stage that I'm with them for a year to 3 years or whatever the time and I was. I know what they did. And it was none of them were worrying about launch angles and all the different crazy things that are out there. And now, did they all do things already pretty well? Absolutely. But they always knew that a line drive to the back of the cage is great. A ball popped up into the middle of the cage isn't good. So they didn't go into the cage trying to work on their launch angle, because it doesn't translate your cage work, liners to the back net onto a field. You know what I mean? So They always kept it very simplistic. Any MLB, on MLB Network or any show you watch and you see Tommy and A-Rod or Fred, any of the guys that actually really did it at a high level, they don't talk about launch. They just talk about getting through the ball, back of the cage. Freddie Freeman has elite YouTube videos on his tee work where he never even pulls the ball. And like,
Yes.
and that's all I'm about. So every time I have the FOMO, these guys, I watch that and I'm like, that's not who they became. Where somebody else tries to emulate their swing and tell you about their swing. So here's what your swing needs to do because this is what he does. But that's not how that's not even the process that he works on to have that. So you trying to get somebody's metrics to do exactly what he does, their process isn't even how they achieve that. So that's my thing. It's like, I don't care who you are. You haven't been around more great hitters than I have. Now, they weren't great because of me, so that's not what I'm saying. But I know how we practiced. I know what they did on a daily basis, and I know why they became great. And I know there are certain guys out there nowadays that maybe think a little different, but none of my guys did. And there isn't even a ton of that. The guys that struggle the most think the most, and the better hitters are pretty simplistic. I love watching the Holiday brothers, Matt Holiday's sons, and I've actually worked with them not worked with them, but been with them when they're working, and been with Matt, and it's as simplistic as it gets, yet it's very intelligent. But here, these elite young hitters, that's not their thinking. Or even Dante Bichette, the one in the big leagues now, son. You watch their stuff and see it, and it's hitting with 2 strikes and using the middle of the field, and it's like, see, their dads are teaching them the way that they did, and they're elite in our game. So, like, don't kid yourself. Like, there's a lot of great info, but boy, it can really be confusing. And if you're a kid that somebody can teach you and you become great, more power to you. I don't know that person yet, and I haven't met them. And if you have something for me and you can for sure guarantee my guys are better, I'm in, but I don't really believe that can happen.
Coach Mo, you're talking a lot too about process right now, and I think that's a really good place for us to move. Is you have got to work with guys like Todd Helton and Mike Trout, and you've said a couple times already that you're by no means taking any of what they did and saying that was because of me, but you've made some great points on you got to watch their process. How has being able to watch the process of 2 of the greatest hitters we've seen at the major league level helped you to help other hitters learn process and improve?
Well, I just think it's just the simplicity of what they did and all my talks with them. And I know that, people don't want to believe, like, so Mike Trout, we had a high toss drill every day where you threw it up to his neck and he would swing it whatever pitch you threw because he wanted to stay above the baseball with his barrel. And then it was high tee. And then I would watch videos 5-6 years later when they would, MLB Network and A-Rod's with him, and he's talking about the exact same things. It's like he hasn't changed his thoughts. I knew he wouldn't and didn't, but it's like he's talking about high tee where everybody else would say, you don't get above the ball, you got to, and it's like the reality is he may get under the ball when you really see, but his process is above the baseball. It's controlling the barrel, getting down through baseballs, creating backspin. You know what I mean? So that's just what lets me know I'm 100%. I lived it with them. I lived it.
Yeah.
And they stayed true to who they were. And again, like I said, I take no credit for them except for I did pay great attention, and I do try to teach some of the things that they did. I'm not dealing with Mike Trout's. Mike Trout is a 240-pound man who looks like Brian Urlacher, just a couple inches smaller. His twitch and his strength is different than anybody. But I saw him as a 17, 18, and 19-year-old. Like, right. I know what he was doing. And his best years in the big leagues were his first 4 years in the big leagues. So that's actually when he was still when I was with him with the 3 different years in the minor leagues. Like, the guy that got into the big leagues at a, 19, 20, 21, 22, when he was a, MVP and all those MVPs and second place guys, he was still doing everything that he did from the years he was with us. Now, things have changed through the years, the injuries and things, but like I know what his roots were for him being him. Todd Helton's, I was with him through his whole career. We spent some years in Denver and got to be with him every day as a hitting coach, and the simplicity, and he's my first Hall of Famer, so I got to go to his Hall of Fame ceremonies and be in a special party with them, and the appreciation he had for me, not deserving, but yet he knew I was always there for him and with him, and I was his biggest fan. So he appreciated that. And he knows I didn't screw him up and how much I cared for him. And so, and that's, makes it worthwhile. Like, that's, so those are what keep you going. And then I think it can lend some credibility to some of the hitters that you have, because we do get to recruit our own players. And let me tell you, we're going to have all the metrics. We have all the bells and whistles for you, but we're not going to be a slave to them. Like, we're going to have the ability to know, but we all have them. And after your swings, you can look, but I won't be using terms on launch angle. But I do want you to know when you hit the ball 420, and like, I've always known the harder you hit the ball, the better hitter you were going to be. And I knew you couldn't hit a homer if you hit it into the ground.
You didn't need numbers to tell you that.
No. And I do know that line drives will always play, and percentages will tell you that. And that line drive that you're trying to hit every time, when you get a tad underneath it, it goes over the fence. But I do know if you try to manipulate, your launch angle to lift the ball, that good things aren't going to happen.
Right.
They aren't. There's too much velocity. There's too much four seam. You know what I mean? The metrics and the analytics help pitchers way more than they do the hitters. Hitters it's still get a good pitch to hit, stay through baseballs, hit line drives, and then magic happens. But you don't. I mean, it's still getting good pitches and pitching good swings. It's not about your pitch selection. It's not about different quadrants in the zones. The more quadrants you handle as a hitter, the better hitter you'll become. The more speeds you can handle, the better hitter you'll become. So you got to work on all that where they can perfect just what they do.
One of the things that Ryan and I have talked about around hitting a lot is always getting your A swing off, and the idea that we're in this kind of, I like to call it a pull happy culture. And I think it's so fascinating. You hear guys like Ken Griffey Jr. talk about every at bat, all I was trying to do was hit a line drive right back at the pitcher's forehead, just right back up the middle.
What is Ken Griffey?
Right. But it's funny because one of the things I always say to Ryan is if you work up the middle of the field and you're trying to hit fastballs back up the middle of the field, well, how do you pull a ball? Well, a guy throws something a little bit softer and you're on fastball timing and he leaves it over the plate. Chances are you're going to get your barrel out front to it, and the trajectory of the ball is going to go more to left center, left field than it is going to go to center field where you're trying to hit that fastball. If you get beat by a fastball or the fastball is a little bit further on the outer half and you're still on that same timing, if you can still catch it up and barrel it, you're just going to drive it to the other side, especially if you're generating backspin. And it's so fascinating that as much as we talk about numbers, we talk about data, nobody wants to just have a conversation around natural physics that exist, right? I want to square it up and hit the barrel. If I catch it just a little bit under the ball and I'm trying to hit line drives, it's just going to go a little higher and go over the fence. And that's okay, right? It is so fascinating to hear you say these things and the simplicity of hitting, because I think we get lost in the numbers too much and lose that feel as baseball players.
I mean, there's no question. And part of mine is I lived through. So two of my all-time favorite, Todd Helton is the best hitter I've ever coached. Mike Trout's the best player, but Todd Helton's still the best hitter. That's why he has more walks and strikeouts. I know it was a little different era, but let me tell you, with the strike zone that they have today, it would have been even easier for him. All right, because now the different relievers and all the quality. Now that makes it tough, but you still had to throw it through the box in that little box to him, and he wasn't going to miss it. But I lived through him, and then Sean Casey is my other one, and I lived through their days where scouts were coming to me. We love them, but they don't pull the ball enough. They do all the damage to the other side of the field. And I'm like, that's the greatest thing a hitter can ever do. And in my time with them at the time, as you get older, you learn pitches better. You can start pulling the ball better. I've never had a hitter that came to me, he was a pull guy, and that we turned into a great hitter. Because if you're a pull guy, you're one-dimensional. You don't handle different speeds. It's harder to hit for a high average. But I always knew the guys that are great the other way, they'll learn to get better pitches they want to hit. They'll get a little older. They'll catch the ball a little more out in front, but they're not going to strike out. They're going to be good off-speed hitters because the game just tells you if you stay on baseballs, you handle more pitches. And the fact that the game wants to believe that batting average isn't important is still one of the most ridiculous things ever. It's not the end all, no question. But it does show a lot of your worth as a hitter. Okay, it shows you handle more pitchers. You don't just get all your hits off the 3, 4, 5 guys. You're getting hits off the 1s and 2s and the Schillings and the Johnsons and stuff. When Todd played, you don't hit 317 in your career. That means you'd hit 800 against the bad pitchers. And then they would show his Hall of Fame numbers against Hall of Fame pitchers, and he's like a 420 hitter. The Smoltzes and Glavins and Maddox and Rivera, all these guys, and Hoffman, and it's well, because that tough outs are tough outs. So
right.
And he's going to pick it up a notch because he knows they're great, and he's great. But so I got to live through. He won't be great because he doesn't use the pull side. I'm like, he can learn to use the pull side. And I'll take a lot of the blame because our work is staying on baseballs and handling more pitches. And winning a batting crown was important to me. And I try to teach them about, you want to win batting crowns, and both of those guys did. That you can't take you're 2 for 4, you need your third hit. You're 0 for 4, your fifth at bat, you need a hit. It's 9-0 or 2-2. You don't give up at bats if you want to be special. And Sean Casey's like a 303 lifetime hitter, and Todd's a 317 hitter. So again, they were special. But at least I could play in like, man, you guys are special. You're elite. I believe in you. Don't read what Baseball America says about you. Like, you got to know who you are. And again, part of being a great player is you better know who you are. And when you start going into the minor leagues and you have a lot of great hitting instructors that are getting in your mind, and well, I just hit 462 at Richmond. I'm Sean Casey. I hit 462 at Richmond, and you want to change my swing, you know what I mean? And he had to be strong to know who he was. I'm sure the hitting coaches will blame that's why he didn't hit 400 home runs, but he knew he could drive in 100 runs and hit a lot of doubles and be a tough out, help his team win, and he stayed with who he was. You know what I mean? And Todd Helton was able to hit himself into the Hall of Fame.
I still think one of the hardest things to do on a big league field is hit a double. Hitting a home run, you're not competing with anybody but a fence. Hitting a double in the big leagues has to be a very hard hit ball. The defenders in the outfield are so elite today, and they were really good back then when those guys were playing. Todd Helton hitting as many doubles as he hit goes so untalked about as being one of the craziest things across his career, I think.
Yeah, and then again, like, I've been fighting this for him for years, and now I don't have to since he's in the Hall. Is hitting at Coors Field easier? Absolutely. He was the perfect hitter to play in Coors Field because he puts the ball in play. He goes foul line to foul line. It's actually not the best home run ballpark, but it's a haven for extra base hits when you put the ball in play, which he did. But he's a lifetime 286 hitter on the road, and the Coors Field factor is like, say you're normally a 280 hitter on the road, but when you play in Colorado, that Jeff Cirillo or another great hitter ends up hitting 210 at home on the road because their splits are that big. Todd's only problem was he hit 370 at home, and if he had hit just 320, they would have said like, well,
oh my God,
the splits couldn't have been that crazy. So you would have thought, well, okay, there's not, and just
it made 280 look bad. It made 280 look bad.
Yeah, it made it look
which
horrible.
It's not.
But if it had been just 320 to 286 and just a 300, they would have said he's okay.
Yeah,
but
that's wild.
It really was that crazy because he was so made, and then you get beat up playing in Colorado, all the long games and the body. It's hard for longevity. So there's a lot of factors, but it was more of the Coors factor. Yes, great at home, but the road splits would go atrocious, and his just became really good. And his road OPS was better than Scott Rowe. Now, it's better than like 40 big leaguers, Hall of Famers. His road splits are higher than their overall OPS, but, you know, he held against him. But like Scott Rowan, who got in the year before, who I love, Todd's OPS on the road was higher than his OPS in his career. And he played in a couple of really good hitters' parks. And Rowan deserved to be, and he's elite. And Todd deserved to be. But like, so he had to fight so many of those demons. So I lived through all that and see that with him. And again, he knew the player he was. He didn't need to be validated that he's a Hall of Famer, but boy, he sure deserved it. And it was a great day for him. And for me, selfishly, and my family, it was special because of all the time that we've been with him and just all that he's done for my family. So
you talked a lot about staying through baseballs, and you brought up a key word that Flax and I like to talk about a lot that for some reason is a metric they've decided doesn't matter, which is very odd to us, which is backspin. Todd Helton and Mike Trout are two guys who can generate unbelievable backspin on baseballs, which helped them to be the types of hitters they were. Can you talk a little bit about how important backspin is when you stay through a baseball and generate it?
Well, I mean, we just know it. You know what I mean? We know that topspin, like, and then you watch, it stays so true. Trout hits a couple homers the other day. Of course, they're to the right of center field, which it's impossible to hit a ball over the opposite field without staying through it and getting really good back. There's no such thing as a topspin other way homer. Now, if you're super strong and you're Mike Stanton and Judge, you could hit a topspin homer to the pull side. It's still really tough, but just that staying through and again, and I'm not trying to be humble when I tell you I'm not very smart. Guys, I'm not very smart. But I know that I've watched enough outfielders that on backspin, when they came in because they thought it was a line drive at them, and it went over their head because of the backspin. I've never seen a guy come in and the topspin went over their head. You know what I mean? So like just staying through baseball. If you're cutting off your swing or rolling over, you're too top hand conscious, you're going to get topspin that go through the 6 and the 4 holes. And now with the shifts, they're overplaying because ground balls are going to be on the pull side for most of the guys. You know, so they can defend you so easily. You're not staying through liner rockets, in 3 or 4 holes or 5 and 6 for lefts and righties. And that's just everything we do is talk about backspin. Your ball flight tells you everything. And I've been around some hitting coaches, and the guys hitting backspin liners, and they're like, "Shh, be quiet. That's gold." And maybe a coach might think that I got to coach him and tell him, like, what can you say? It's impossible to hit a ball the other way with backspin and be doing something wrong. And it's actually impossible to pull to the pull side with backspin and do something wrong, because that means you didn't pull off, you kept it fair, your spin was perfect. So really, if you can slice the ball to the opposite field, and still you can hit a ball over the opposite field wall with a slice, to be honest with you.
We saw it happen the other day. We posted something online about it because James Wood, who's on a tear right now for the Nationals, hit a ball out that only Stanton has ever done in Miami, which was over the left center wall at a 20-degree launch angle, which is basically just a line drive.
Absolutely right.
And he hit a down and in pitch as a left-handed hitter the opposite way over the exact same spot, 400 feet. And you can only do that if you stay through the ball, you backspin the ball, and you get it on that trajectory where it just kind of takes off and hangs out in the air for a really long time.
Yeah. Like I said, obviously I don't know physics, but yeah, for balls to do that, we know that's absolutely just incredible. I mean, it's unbelievable, but staying through baseballs and the ability to stay inside of baseballs and not get around baseballs. And I mean, that's the art of repeating really, really good swings. And again, baseball somehow just believe that batting average isn't important and that strikeouts are great because it was only 1 out. And I just don't, you can't get a guy in from third with a strikeout. And then it's better than a double play. Yeah, there are certain times, but how many times as an individual hitting a double plays? You know what I mean? So you're going to tell me that outweighs. So again, we want to do everything. We want to hit for a high average. We want to have a great on base percentage. We want to slug, because there's nothing like extra base hits. So all that's important. No, I do know that the more you hit the ball in the fat part of the bat, the farther your ball will go, the most consistently. And you can't be a guy with a max exit velocity of 92. Because then the best balls you ever hit can't beat an outfielder. So you got it. You're trying to combine everything. But it's not okay to strike out. It's not okay to be able to be pitched to another time. But it's going to happen in order to get something. You have to give sometimes. So I get all that. But I've never heard anybody ever average that on base percentage wasn't important. Okay, people. That's one thing. But if you only hit 220, there's no way that you can walk that many times and be able to be a 400 on base guy. Yeah. You know what I mean? You can hit 220 and walk a ton and have a 340, 350, but it's still only 340, 350. You know what I mean? But if you hit 280, that same guy that walks, then yes, he can be that 380 to 400, So they're all valued. But it's not, hey, no power, but he hits high and doesn't walk. No, the 310 hitter that doesn't walk and he has no power, that's the one that you got to worry about. But and we do have to get a hit with a runner on second base with 2 outs. We can't hide from that fact that I know you don't want to believe a single's good, but it sure is as a guy at second base with 2 outs in the 9th inning of a tie game. So
I love that you're saying all these things that Ryan and I, these are just conversations that he and I have had within the last week. These are just things we naturally talk about.
You're making
and I
me
love
feel
that.
Much smarter about baseball than I realized I might be. So I appreciate it.
I already told you. If you want to be smart, I'm not the guy that, oh my gosh, I've got
around baseball. Don't listen. You got to give yourself some credit around baseball. Around baseball, you are a smart guy. But I want to shift the topic because there is another kind of.
And we would also talk hitting with you until we fell over.
Yes, yes, we would.
I've already told you everything I know, which isn't possible like that. There's going to be groundbreaking stuff, guys. I do, but I do know what I believe, and I'm believing in it.
I love it.
There's an interesting shift, though, outside of the playing of the game that's happening in college baseball, and you are fortunate enough to have been in the game long enough to see this shift really happen. The introduction of the transfer portal, name, image, and likeness dollars coming through a lot of these big programs. How's it changing the way that you guys recruit? How's it changing the way that you coach and approach certain guys, certain players that you're maybe looking at for longer term outlook that may not be the guy right out of the gate? How are you guys handling that, and how's that changed from what you used to do or how you used to approach things with college kids?
If at all.
Yeah, so one thing is you probably even learn a little bit of, like, I'm the most transparent person that you can ever meet and ever know.
I love it.
That's why we have you here.
That's why it's always a little scary when I get a little content out there. Now, I love the transfer portal because I always want it to be about the players. I hate the transfer portal in a lot of ways also. I need it to be out there that this transfer portal, when people try to take shots at the players all the time, oh, these spoiled kids today, it doesn't go good, they want to transfer. Let me tell you, I don't know the percent, but a lot of the transfer portal happens because us college coaches, there's not a fit for you on our club. You're not going to get opportunity.
Yep.
You went in the portal because we told you the truth that you weren't going to get a chance to play. So don't you dare take all the shots at the players that are going into the transfer portal. Because a lot of them, most of them, aren't on their own. Okay? They're not on their own. But to my knowledge, I really believe in most of the coach's heart, they're always trying to do what's best for their player. They're definitely trying to do what's best for their own program, but they're being honest that you're not a fit here. Let's get you to a better place. So it just doesn't always work out for that kid. But
Sure.
do not put it on the players like all these, oh yeah, today's kids are not as tough as they were. They're not. I'm on record. Kids 39 years ago were amazing, and they're amazing today. So is it different? Is it a different world? Do parents think different? They're reading social media. They're getting this false feeling of what it's like. So it's changed. Myself as a coach, guys, I've tried to get better every day as a coach. My only thing that I can promise you, and again, I'm not trying to be humble, I'm just telling you the truth, is nobody has made more mistakes as a coach than me. And yes, I have tried to learn from it. A way I may have handled a player 30 years ago, and hopefully as I'm doing today, like I'm hoping I've gotten better every day. I've made so many mistakes with handling players, and unfortunately I still do today. But like, I always had their best interest in heart. That
Sure.
didn't mean they liked it. I've always coached them hard because I've always loved them. And all I've ever wanted to do was make them the best version of themselves. That doesn't mean they would like it. Okay? As the years go on and you get letters from players or they find out you're there and you get an email or something and you're like, oh gosh, man, I wish I had done so many things different for this guy. And maybe they say kind things and I think they're just making them up. But they are getting older. They have their own kids. They're realizing how hard it gets when you're an adult. And they're just like, man, I coach a little league team. I'm trying to do what you did. How did you do that? And I finally understand why you were trying me to do this and how difficult it was. So it does give you a little confidence and say, man, I still would do it different. I'll still tell them, man, I'm ashamed at the way I handle things. I promise you I made some adjustments, but I also promise you there haven't been tons of them. I'm still going to coach you hard. I'm still going to love you. I'm still going to tell you the truth. So I refuse to coach this kid different because he can go in the transfer portal. Because I'm sure not going to have a kid that like I'm fake coaching just so he stays.
Yeah.
And if he doesn't want to be in our program, or say I'm the hitting coach and the position player coach, and I'm with him daily, and if he doesn't believe in me, then he needs to transfer. Or if I've done a poor job, I'm sorry, I'm embarrassed, but you need to do what you're going to do. So I'm not going to like, when I hear something, well, today I can't coach the guy because I got to recruit him every day. Well, like, that's what I've always been trying. I'm trying to win him over every day.
Right.
It takes a second to lose his respect, and it takes a long time to build it. So, like, I'm not going to change with that. Like, I'm getting smarter and better every day. So I hope you trust my knowledge more, because I admit where I wasn't good, and I'm still not good, but I'm trying to get better. And if that's not the kind of guy you want to be with, then I'm not the right guy for you. And if you can go with somebody that can get you better, do it. So,
Well, I can tell you, I can tell you firsthand, because I remember this when my brother was at Tennessee with you and Serrano, that When he hurt his elbow, the first thing was a very honest and open conversation and said, if you want to go play somewhere else, we'll help you get there. Let us know. But, considering the situation, the talent that we're bringing in, it's going to be really hard for you to have a spot on the roster. And I think that's the appropriate thing to do for a college kid, especially a college kid that's probably still at a young age, that's not ready to make life decisions like that for themselves. Helping them understand the full picture, helping them understand what the actual information in front of and the situation in front of them is. And I look back at that and I always think like, oh, I think they did so right by him by being honest. Unfortunately, I don't know that honesty happens everywhere. But I knowing who you are and knowing the way that you talk about things, I don't doubt that you give that full transparency from day one to your guys.
And that's all I can. And again, like, there's nothing like becoming a father and having your own kids, and especially I got 3 boys. And now again, I'm an odd duck, so it's a little different. But like, what I try to do is treat every player like I would my own son. Now again, I'm going to be tough on my own son. I have high standards for my own son, and but that's what I'm going to do with your kid. So, and that's what I do with my kid. And again, that might not be, maybe you want to sugarcoat everything and don't hurt my kid's feelings. Now, again, we get to recruit. So every player we bring in, especially for position, they're going to know exactly what I am. This is what I stand for. This is what I do. If you don't like it, then this isn't a good fit. I hope you do, but it's not a good fit. What I can't have is I sell you a bill of goods, how fun it is here, and it's the easiest place you'll ever play. And if you don't play well, we'll play you anyways. And we're going to play 20 position players at a time. And
Every day.
So like, and then all of a sudden you get here and you find out like, oh my gosh, he yelled at me more than one day. And I'm like, so like, talk to the players. The players never lie. Like, let them know. Like, ask them the questions. Yeah. So like, I can't, again, I'll try to let them know, like, you think you know? Oh, I played for a tough high school coach. It's tough. Like, well, you think you know, but you don't know. Okay, so like, until you live it, you'll never know. But I got players in this program that like, so just ask them. And again, if you don't get to play every day and everything, like, you always think I got a raw deal, and it's hard. Playing college baseball is so difficult, and it's just yucky. The game of, and it's a game of sports in general. You know what I mean? Like, do you know how hard it is to play? Number one, just to have an opportunity to be a college baseball, football, basketball player, any sport for that matter, and then to be a starter, and then to stay in that program for your career. And so it's just, you do what's best. You got to be able to sleep at night. Again, 1 million people watch us. Well, he didn't meet. Yeah, and I got 1 million that say that I did it right. Okay, and I didn't. I just couldn't. And I'm trying to get better. And I'd be the first to apologize but again, there wasn't a lie. Like, it wasn't that, but. You brought me in, you thought I was going to be the shortstop. I did. That's why we recruited you. That's why we gave you the scholarship. And even getting a roster spot's gold. And we wouldn't give you a roster spot if we didn't see a great future. And then it just didn't pan out. A lot of times I didn't do a good enough job of coaching you. I thought I could get you better. I failed you. Now, what happens, there's not many times where the guy went to another place and he became awesome. And it was like, well, that guy knew so much more than me. He made him way better. It normally doesn't happen that way, and then
we usually see the change of scenery be more successful in the big leagues than we see it in the college game, unless it's a guy going from a lower level place to a higher level place where they just had the skill to play at a higher level. If they're just moving from high level to high level, especially at the college level, you don't very often see this change of scenery all of a sudden create this blossom effect for players. It happens, but it is less frequent than you see it at the big league level, it seems.
Yeah, and you're always hoping. You're hoping when a kid leaves or you ask him to leave that he goes and does great. I hope he's American. Now, I don't really have any of those cases, but I hope we try to give you an opportunity. Or, I have so many players that I've coached in college, and this is what gives me such why I'm just not all into the new hitting philosophies around the country or around baseball. I've had so many players that played for me and they got their contract, and I'm like, man, I couldn't get them to do A, B, and C, but it was good enough to be drafted and man, I can't wait for them to be around other hitting coaches, and man, I hope they can unlock the potential or the power or the something, and then they blossom. But I don't have one of those where the guy left, and I have lots of them where they were an All-American, and unfortunately the career didn't go even, so I'm always just waiting for that one day that the guy went to a certain organization, comes back to me in the off season. I got 6 drills for you and a different way for you to think. And now you can be a great hitting coach, because I would welcome all that and they know it. But I don't have any of those. But I have other stories where they try to get me to work on something. All they cared about was this. It was a little confusing. I never could get it. I got released in a year. You know what I mean? And I'm like, so again, that's where.
Yeah, you stop letting your body and your talent do the work for you and do the thing.
So,
yeah,
it's just really
such a
tough.
good job of
you know,
reminding people, and we every day we tailor everything we talk about is to fans of the game. It's to a lot of people who played at a lower level, maybe not at the college level, most likely not at the professional level. But we try to relate a lot of different things to the daily life of people. When players are signing contracts, why this is so important to their families and getting guaranteed money. When players are trying to make swing changes, it's the fact that they went into work and they felt like they needed to make a change in order to save their career. And reminding people how important it is to recognize that these are just very highly talented people who have chosen a career that happens to be the sport of baseball. And we like to treat it as if that's not the case. But you show us that you're going in every day to be a better version of yourself as a hitting coach. Does it always happen? Maybe not. I don't go into work every day as a sales rep and become a better sales rep every day, but I certainly try. And I love that you're able to remind people that that is part of the game, and this is your job, and you go to work every day and you put your best foot forward, and that's what you can do.
That's all you can do. Now, again, the neat thing about being a college coach is like I'm just trying to build better men. I'm trying to teach a work ethic and just continue to have that great kid
absolutely.
be a great kid so that he can have success in life. And I can't let down. My biggest fear would be to let down a player's parents, that I didn't do a great job of. They're all great when we get them, so like we didn't make them great kids. But like I can't let them down, that I didn't give my best, that I didn't have love. I'm going to try to have compassion, but I am going to have toughness. And I'm just sorry it doesn't work out. We've got some players in our deal that don't get to play every day, and like your heart goes out daily for them, but they still come to work every day and they just work their butt off, and when they're called upon they're ready to go. But 9 guys play, and some of them had great success last year and it hasn't worked out so good yet, and you just feel from like, man, he's gone backwards a little bit. How did I fail him? So you feel, and you're hoping that maybe the player understands it. He's upset that you didn't get him better, but they didn't show it, but he knows that you are paying attention and you do care that he didn't do better, and you're not like, so what? It's not my son. It's not my team's doing good without you. Like, but no.
You always give guys at least you're giving guys a feeling of like you're treading water, right? You're not drowning with your hand sticking up, hoping somebody grabs it. Like at least they know you're there as a hitting coach, working with them and at least trying to help them get over the hump. And I think, at least for me, like as a hitter, if I just knew I had somebody there that I could talk through a lot of it with to get me to that place, it was mostly still going to be on me to get myself to where I knew I needed to be as a hitter. But having somebody there, at least making me feel like I wasn't under the water, I think always got me over that hump or got me out of the tough spells. A lot of times it was my mom who was my hitting coach a good bit of the time. But, that's just me.
Can I ask, is you mentioned not only building baseball players, but building strong young men who have the ability to walk into life and be successful. Is that part of the reason why you've always found yourself back in college baseball comparatively to, you've had some stints in pro ball, so I'm curious if that's why you find yourself back in it.
Well, I mean, even when I was in pro ball, I felt that was still my job, to be honest with you. Yeah. But I didn't get to recruit the family. But that stuff was important to me, but it's just different. You didn't deal with them when you recruited them, and you're not with them every day of their life, basically, except for the summer. And a big thing for that, for me, was just family. The pro game, that means you're gone for 6 months away from your family at the minimum. So it's really always been about being with my family and helping raise with my wife, an amazing wife, and 3 boys, and being with them. But so I always wanted to try to put my heart into even minor league players, but it's always a little different. They're in different stages, but the collegiate is just that the value of the education and building men, and again, I still always wanted to bring that to a minor league kid, of a kid 18 to shooting AA, 30 years old, So you
had Mike Trout pretty young. He seems like a really good man in my opinion.
Well, his mom, Debbie and Jeff, they raised the most amazing kid. People always, when I tell them he's a better kid than he is player, they're like, how can you be that? Well, he is. And I used to talk to the father, like, I need some tips on how you could raise a kid like this. So, yeah, again, he came from an amazing family, and, and it was, I made sure he didn't go backwards.
I was fortunate to get to hear you talk about him kind of in the time that you had really just spent time with him. And I remember you always saying, like, if you want to talk about a name that you're going to hear for a very long time, remember the name Mike Trout. And you had always told this story of, he was always level. Like he just understood himself. He understood the game. He understood how hard it was. And he got out, he got a hit a home run, always very much the same guy. And he approached it the same way. And he was very routine about it. You always said, to high schoolers, you guys are sitting here throwing helmets. This guy who's going to be one of the best baseball players you'll ever see. When he strikes out, what does he do? He walks back to the dugout. He places his bat down, places his helmet in the helmet rack, and he gets on the top step and learns. And I think that was like my first introduction into understanding that's how you carry yourself as a baseball player. So I think it's so cool that you got to spend time around that, but I think it's even cooler that you had the attitude and the mentality of saying, I'm going to learn from this. I'm not just going to get to be around it. I'm going to learn from it, from being around it, and I'm going to utilize it everywhere I go. Because a lot of coaches may have just looked at it and said, yeah, I coached Mike Trout. How cool is that? And then walked away and talked about that for the next 15 years.
Well, yeah, because it was embarrassing for me because I'm a 40-year-old man, and when things don't go right, can't handle it like that. And he's a 19 and 20-year-old who strikes out with the bases loaded and acts like nothing happened. Now, as I got a little wiser, I said, well, if I was as good as him and knew for sure I was going to do great the next time,
yeah,
I guess I could do it. If every game I lost, I knew 100% we'd win the next one. But, like, that's how he was raised. He acts like he's Derek Jeter as an 18-year-old kid. And I was more enamored with that than him running 3.89 to first base, because that's what that's the way you're supposed to act, and I can't even do it. So, yeah, I've always paid attention. And what I learned is all the elite performers that I've been around, that's what they did. And so it was like, and again, you always want to be someone you're not, and I'm not doing things the right way. And I'm like, how can this kid act like this? So and I'm always way more impressed with that than I am how good a player they are. And again, that's what I want my boys to become. And that's what I wish I would have was. So again, that stuff's always been as important as anything to me. And I do 100% believe that's why he was so consistent. He's 4 for 4, you don't know. He's 0 for 4, you don't know. If we won the game in the handshake line, he acts like he was 4 for 4, but he was 0 for 4. He carried himself with a confidence all the time. And he wasn't really the only guy. It's just I knew that he had a chance to be and I was on record at the time that he's going to be maybe the best player in the history of the game, and it showed it for a while.
Yeah.
And hopefully we get it back. And he hit his 4th the other day, and so we're gonna get a few more hits because I believe he's a 300 hitter with the 40 home runs. So it was the way he handled himself. It was his work ethic. It was his steadiness, and he never thought more of himself. I'm so proud when they used to rip him. Mike Trout doesn't make enough of himself, and he's too great a person, and he doesn't make it about himself. And I'm like, that's the best characteristic he has.
I love that.
He's not going to hit a homer and pound his chest 20 times and do a flip at home plate. He's going to act the same. That's
he's a
why
true
Mike
pro.
Trout.
He really is a true
pro. And he always will be. He always was. I never had to worry about, well, wait till he becomes famous. Then I'm like, you don't change when you're that kid. Are you kidding me? So it was foolproof that he would make it because he was foolproof. So
it's so fascinating. The guy took a ball out of his glove the other night in Houston, and then after the game, he met up with them, gave the kid a bat, apologized to them for the way he had behaved in the situation. Like that is beyond expectation. For someone of his caliber of player, just to like put himself back in the situation to engage with those people on his own accord, but then to basically apologize for his behavior. It is so incredible. It's funny. I talked about it earlier in this episode of our podcast, but like he just is. He's a pro's pro. He's what everyone should want to be for themselves when they get to the big leagues as a person, not even just as a player.
He's Mike Trout. He's Millville's Mike Trout, and it'll never leave him. And again, his mom and dad, I thanked him then for raising this amazing kid and try to get some fatherly advice from him. So again, that stuff is how you get a fondness for kids. And, it's just I could text him. He's not a big phone talker. I could text him at any time. I'll get it back in a second. And I'm not going to bother him with many things, but he's never not gotten my family tickets or anything we ever needed. We don't ask for crazy stuff, and get to run into mom and dad sometimes at the stadium that we're at, because they've got the second greatest life from him, following their son, and they are so well deserving, and they love all their kids.
So you can give me no comment on this, but you got to coach potentially two of the greatest baseball athletes of all time in Helton and Trout. Was one of them actually a better all-around baseball athlete?
Yeah, Trout, because the run. Okay. I mean, if Todd Helton could run like Mike Trout, I mean, that wouldn't even have been fair. So
I don't disagree with that.
I mean, trust me, Todd Helton, although he was a good athlete for a first baseman. Now, the funniest thing is, as a football player, he was a scat back quarterback. Yeah. But as a baseball player, he's a below average runner. So, but yeah, that wouldn't even, God's gave them both some amazing gifts, but that wouldn't have been fair to everybody else. That'd be like making Peyton Manning a great runner himself. So you don't get to give it.
It's true.
Nobody deserves everything.
I'll agree with that.
Mike sort of stole that a little bit. So that's why I think God maybe said, hey, well, I can't let you never get injured for your first 13 years. So we're going to give you a few hardships, but I'll give you a great family. And now he's got children. And so he made up for it in other ways with that. But so again, they're both special, and I don't like to compare players.
Oh, that's on me.
And again, I'm not going to shy away from that because they both know how much I love them. But I will tell you, if Todd Helton he would have been Ichiro with power and walked more than Ichiro, and so he would have been able to bunt, beat. I mean, he'd have hit 380. So,
we've taken a lot of your time. I have one final question, because you got to coach in the Cape Cod League, which for those that are listening and do know that the SEC is the mecca for college baseball, the Cape Cod League is the mecca for college summer wood bat leagues. So getting to coach in the Cape Cod League, just out of curiosity, any fun stories that you have from getting to be in that environment in a summer atmosphere with some of those guys when they were kids and just kind of playing and having fun with that atmosphere?
Yeah, I think always my deals are my players get to have the more stories about my ridiculousness, and I don't get to have them with them. I've got stories of me doing some stupid things on the tennis courts and breaking rackets and throwing them into the woods, and then maybe while I'm talking to my team, the kids are coming out of the woods with my tennis rackets that I broke. My players don't even know, but I know, like, that kid's got 2 rackets that I broke while I was playing tennis during the day. So I didn't offer those to my players. So no, it was just the greatest experience. And
I can imagine.
And the players I got to coach. And again, what's really neat is my wife and we haven't been back the last 2 years, but we went there a couple years in a row. And my wife's giving me stories of all the great things that she did during the days and her runs with our babies in strollers. And I didn't even know anything but where the ballparks and where we ate. I didn't even realize how gorgeous the Cape was and all those things because of how dumb I was. So again, looking back, I just get to the ballpark at 12. We got early hitting, and I didn't take time to smell the roses. But when I go back now, I realize this is heaven. This is the greatest place. And I'm getting to go watch our players on my team play in the summer. Yeah. So I get to go eat and get ice cream at the place and shrimp and everything, and then go watch them instead of just going to the field from 12 to the game over at 10 or 11. So yeah, I was a young.
Well, listen, like you said, you're still learning. You're still learning.
I was still, but it was as good a time as you could ever have. But also the losses were tough. You're coaching 42 games this summer just after you had your 60-something from your college.
It's a long season.
So wins and losses have always been a real tough thing for me, especially when I was younger. And My wife will tell you how I quit 100 different times after every loss. I can't coach anymore. I'm not going to do this again. And we had good success, so I can't imagine if the team had lost a ton. So, but yeah, so I've got the stories are usually about my stupidity, never my players. So,
I love that answer. Coach Mo, I hope one day I get to share 30 minutes in a cage with you, because I would love the opportunity to learn from you the way Flax was able to at one point in time. You carry yourself with so much honesty and humility, and we are so blessed to have you on this. So thank you so much for sharing unfiltered your thoughts on not only hitting, but the college game, the pros that you got to coach. Unforgettable as I expected it to be, and as Evan told me it would be.
Yeah.
well, the pleasure is all mine, guys. And Evan's got my number, so I'm always a phone call away. And there's nothing like Fort Worth, Texas, guys. And we have
That's what I hear.
our player development, our cages where the work's done and the fun's had. We'd love to have you guys anytime. And we're getting the season's winding down, and we got big games every weekend. So you guys find yourself a way to get out, and just let me know ahead of time, and we'll make it happen.
I hope you guys enjoyed the interview. We were really excited to do it. And again, we're here to hopefully share some really awesome people, not just on the baseball field, but off the baseball field as well, and give you guys some solid entertainment to learn more about the game we all love. Flax, final thoughts.
Final thoughts from me. Matt Mervis is mashing the baseball in Miami. I keep tweeting about it. I'm very excited about it because he found a new home. He found a warm home where he can hit the baseball very, very far, very, very often. I apologize that it happened against your Nationals a couple of times this weekend, but he is absolutely lighting it up right now. And I'm just excited to see it because he spent a ton of time in the minor leagues with the Cubs doing the same thing, barely got opportunities. When he did get opportunities, it wasn't what he wanted it to be. And as soon as that trade happened between him and Vidal Brujan going between Miami and Chicago, I was excited for him to get an opportunity where he was more than likely going to make a big league roster out of the gate and get a lot of starts. So that's my final thoughts for the day.
Five home runs in the last 6 games?
I believe so. Yeah. Creeping up the leaderboard.
Yeah. My final thoughts will also be about a large human being hitting the ball very far, and that's 4 words for you: big dumper torpedo thumpers. Yes. Cal Raleigh is using a torpedo bat, and back-to-back nights he has hit big dumper thumpers. So, yeah, I don't know. Listen, I said this, and we're going to get to try these torpedoes here in the next couple of weeks. We're really excited to do it. I have a feeling that from overall perspective, the results that you can get off the torpedo bat are going to be no different than a regular bat, but it's going to do 2 things. It's going to be a preference, and it's going to give you more confidence if you like swinging it. And as anybody knows who's played this game, whatever piece of equipment gives you more confidence, i.e., call back to earlier when Flax mentioned a starting pitcher at the MLB level having to switch the glove he has been using. These things matter to people, and I will be very excited to continue to see guys like Raleigh and guys like Chisholm, Volpe, right, using these bats and having more confidence in their overall capabilities.
I do have one other thing. We talked about Tarek Skubal in the earlier segment. If you have not, go check out the Slab Lab episode with Dallas Braden and Tarek Skubal. Really, really interesting to just get a look inside how these guys think who do it at the highest level and do it really well at the highest level. It's such a fun watch. Dallas Braden's been there, done that. So the way he interacts with these guys is on such a peer-to-peer level. It's so fun to just engage in. So I just wanted to throw that in there for anybody who's looking for other baseball content besides ours. Don't know why you would be, but if you are.
Thank you so much for hanging out with us. We hope you guys enjoyed this week's episode. Have a great week.